Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We have some pretty juicy Star Citizen news to go over today, spanning stuff that we've gotten over the last couple of days. We have some interesting PTU updates to talk about. There was some new ships that were added to the in-game shops. We're going to briefly cover that, how much they are, where you can find them. We have a new sneak peek from this week showcasing what, as far as we know, is the next ship that'll be coming with 4.3. We also have an announcement that's from Evocati that there is going to be a tech preview starting for Evo on Monday, but not exactly for what you think they may be doing in tech preview, at least not for this first test. But we're going to talk about that and kind of what some of those things will mean, and of course, a lot more than that. So if you want to see some of the latest happenings for Star Citizen news, then sit back, relax, and let's get into it. Alrighty, so first we're going to go over the PTU updates that we've had over the last couple of days. Now, we're not going to go check out everything today. A lot of this stuff that I'll just kind of briefly go over, or some like ship changes, we'll use SP Viewer to take a look at those. But one thing that we will do is go take a look at New Deal here at Lorville and see if what new ships there are that are available here to purchase in game. If we can't find them all here, then we may go to Area 18 as well to take a look at it. But let's head in there and see what might have been added. All right. So from the patch notes, they said that they added the Drake Golem, the Misk Fortune, the Ghost Hornet Mark II, and then the Mirai Guardian. So we'll go to Drake. We'll see if we have our Drake Golem right here. So looks like it's just over $1 million, which is actually a very good price for this. So about I'd say 1.1 million or so to get a starting mining ship. They can carry a decent amount of ore. You can't change the mining head on it, but I believe you can add a gadget or two and some other little bits and bobs to help improve the performance of it. So really just a solid ship all around, and I'm glad that they're adding it to the in-game shops for especially newer players to be able to take advantage of this and start getting into the mining profession. And then let's look for the Misk Fortune. Okay, we've got, usually they're down at the bottom here, Misk Fortune. So this we're looking at 1.9 million, which again, this in terms of like its cargo capacity and carrying capacity and all those sorts of things, it's very, very similar to the Vulture. It's really just a version of that sort of made by Misk. I guess if we look at the Vulture in the Drake category again, the Vulture is 2.6 million. So technically, the Fortune is about 500k, 600k or so cheaper than the Vulture. Again, this is, I don't know if you'd say it's a starting I guess technically right now it would be. There might be an even smaller starting salvage ship we get, maybe later this year at IAE. We've heard it talked about a little bit before. But I think for now, if you were going to start getting into salvaging, you'd want either this or the Vulture. So I'm just glad to see that it's in in-game shops now. It's been way too long that it's been in the game and you couldn't buy it. So good to see that that's been added. And then next we have the Mirai Guardian, and I found it under, for some reason there's just two different Mirai tabs here, but here we can see the Mirai Guardian. This is the standard, not the QI, not the MX. We're looking at 6.6 million for this, and that's pretty good for a heavy fighter like this that has a fleshed out interior. You can log out in there. You have a decent amount of like you can fit like a 1 or 2 SCU box in there, but it also has some storage space, some weapon lockers. It has all the engineering stuff you'll need in the future, and you get a pair of size 5 guns. So those will do pretty good in combat. I have the Guardian QI from Wicklow that I got in 4.2.1 live, and I've really been enjoying that. And this would fly even better than the QI by a little bit. So there's that in game if you've been looking to get that for a while. And then last, I believe we have to look at is the Ghost Hornet Mark II. So let's take a look at that. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. So under the Anvil tab, I was wondering if this would be something they put at Area 18, because there are a good amount of Anvil ships that are only there. But we do have the F7C that you can get here at Lorville. I don't think that's at Area 18. And it looks like they have also added the Ghost here at about 5.4 million, which is not too bad. I will definitely be picking that up once this patch goes to live, because the Ghost is pretty stealthy, and you can put a lot of guns on it. So that'll be a good pickup. And then a little bit of a surprise that they've also added the Hornet Tracker Mark II, although I don't remember seeing it mentioned in the patch notes. That is coming in at just under 5.2 million. Now, unfortunately, I would not recommend getting this ship currently, as it doesn't really have a function without like scanning being able to be linked up between ships. Like, I think the vision for this ship in the future is you send this ship out to kind of scout ahead of like a larger group. They're able to relay that whatever information they get back to the larger ships, and they're able to then make a decision on what they want to do and whatnot. So until then, this ship isn't really going to be worth using all that much. But still, nonetheless, it's good that they got it into the shops. It's been 9 or 10 months now, close, I would say, since these two ships came out at IAE last year, so I'm just glad that they're available in-game. But I think that is all the in-game ships that are new for this patch. I am planning on doing a more in-depth video on all of them, except maybe the tracker, at some point, probably around when the patch goes live, just to give you a little bit more of an in-depth overview if you're wondering which one you want to get, or you just haven't seen them before and you're just wondering a little bit about them. So make sure to keep an eye out for that. But that is going to do it for checking out some of the stuff for new ships coming in the patch. So now let's go ahead and check out some of the other PTU updates and ship changes on SP Viewer. So now let's briefly touch on some of the PTU changes that we saw this week. I'll start with the patch that we got on, I believe that was Wednesday, so the same day we had the monthly report. Again, that was the patch that they added those ships to the in-game shops. And then the biggest other thing there was just more Onyx facility polish, fixing little bugs, tweaking things. That's going to be a really big theme in all the PTU patches that we see throughout the rest of this week. And of course, moving towards the release of this patch, because that's the main center point of it. But it sounds like they fixed some issues with music not playing properly, some signage things, different little bits like that. That was from the Wednesday patch. The Thursday patch, we had a change for some of the missions at the Onyx facilities. You have to get like a little data stick sort of thing, and you're supposed to go drop it off at like a station like Everest Harbor, Port Tressler, something like that. And they previously had the drop-off location as the in the Galleria section of those stations. There was the old kind of little, in the admin office, the turn-in area for packages. If you used to do like delivery missions before 4.0 came out, and those didn't entirely work, that's where you would typically deliver them. But whenever I tried it, those machines weren't working. So they have now, as of the Thursday patch, they had changed the location for those deliveries to be sending it down a freight elevator. Now, we know that there's issues with freight elevators, but this should be done in a station, so you're in an instance hangar, and typically, at least in my experience, there's very minimal issues using freight elevators in a station. So it shouldn't be too big of a deal to turn those items in. And then they also added in 3 new hairstyles. There's 2 short and 1 medium length style. I think there's usually 3 or 4 new ones that come in with every patch. They're just continuing to build that library of different hairs, building out the character customizer even more. And then we had some additional changes for light fighter balancing. We're going to go over some more of that in a minute here on SP Viewer. But what they mentioned specifically for ship the Aegis Gladius, it now only has 1 critical hit point area, which is the body. I believe previously it had both the body and the nose areas could be the critical areas. And then they slightly adjusted the values to reflect that change, which again we'll take a look at. And then on the Anvil Hawk, which is a very underutilized ship, and I do want to try it sometime, they have increased the wing HP, so it makes it a little bit less likely that they'll just snap off at the slightest, bit of wind hitting them. So that's a good change there. And then also on the Volt Sniper, they slightly reduced the RPM from 492 to 325. That's going to be if you're rapid firing shots, not letting the sniper charge up. And then they adjusted a few other things with it, a little bit of polish. That was Thursday's patch. And then for Friday's patch, we had some further changes for a couple of ships, which are pretty interesting. For the Isperia Talon and the Talon Shrike, both of those are stealth ships. One's more missile-focused, one's more of a traditional fighter. They increased the pitch and yaw, the acceleration of those, and a couple of other things. But the biggest thing is they adjusted the cross-section emissions to help with the ship's stealth profile. We'll take a look at that in a minute of the changes made to the cross-section in terms of numbers, but it's pretty crazy how stealthy the ship already was and how much more stealthy these changes will most likely make it. So very, very interesting. If you're a Talon pilot or been eyeing that ship, you might want to stick around for that section. And then also in this patch, they changed the Vanduul blade. There were some buffs they had made to its capacitor regeneration and capacity. I think maybe a couple patches ago or something like that. They just adjusted that slightly, but just some little adjustments there to help. I think it's with the weird I think it has like a weird bespoke cannon, laser cannon on it that just had like no shots or something. So it was to help fix that. And then last thing from this patch, and the last big thing from the PTU stuff is you could actually buy the Volt sniper rifle, I believe, in some shops in Pyro, some gun shops. But they did remove it. I think they want to, encourage you to go to the new locations, go loot it there. But I'm sure you can still find it at other places, maybe at the ASD locations on Pyro 1. You can loot it there just like all the other Volt weapons. So that's all of the big PTU changes from this week for the last couple of days. So now let's take a brief look at some stuff in SP Viewer and then talk about some other interesting things. All right, so couple quick things to go over here in SP Viewer. Like they mentioned in the patch notes, there was a change to the Gladius's health layout that now no longer has a vital area on the nose. It's just the body. So they removed that, and this applies to the normal Gladius, the Gladius Valiant, the Pirate, and the Dunlevy. And then they added a little bit of HP to the body, a little bit less than I thought they maybe would have. It went from 2250 HP to 2350, so just about 100 more or so. I wouldn't be surprised if they increased that even a little bit more, but that is the change for the Gladius. And then for the Anvil Hawk, we can see on all of the rear wings and the left wings and all the wings that it has, they pretty much, at least on most of them, they increased it by, I don't know, double or so. It was just on a couple of them that they only increased it a little bit. But that should be significantly more durable, which also should catch more hits for you from hitting the main body, which I believe is the vital area on the Hawk. It might have a nose vital area as well, but it should improve the survivability of that ship a decent amount, so that is very good to see. And then for the Asperia blade, we can see here they adjusted that ammo load multiplier down a little bit and the regen per second down a little bit. But the big thing is going to be on the Asperia Talon and the Talon Shrike. So they both had their pitch increased from 66 to 68. The roll was decreased from 197 to 195 on both, but that's a pretty minimal difference. They slightly adjusted the acceleration, so a little bit higher Gs on both, it looks like, up about 5%. But that big thing is going to be the cross-section emissions. For the Talon, the side and top emissions were lowered by 42% and 35%. And you keep in mind, so these numbers now, at least for the Talon, are 2,400 and 3,000. And then there, as far as I know, there is an additional 40%, minus 40% stealth modifier that's applied to those values that's part of the ship. So take 40% away from that. That gets your cross-section emissions pretty low, and also, of course, helps with EM and IR. And then it's a very similar story on the Talon Shrike. Just for some reason, they also list the front cross-section actually increased by just a little bit. I don't know why that's not listed on the normal Talon. But yeah, so that'll, I'm sure, make it a little bit more of an appealing option to use these ships alternatively to like an Aegis Saber or a Saber Firebird or things like that that are kind of the typical stealth ships you see being flown around. Might give you, another option to try. So some very interesting little changes on that note. So now that's everything from the PTU, all the SP Viewer updates for this last couple of days. So now we're going to take a brief look at the sneak peek from this week and talk about that for a few minutes. And then we're going to finish off by talking about the, like I mentioned in the intro of the video, the announced to Evo tech preview that's coming, I believe on Monday, as far as we know, that will be testing some new updates that we might see in the PU at some point pretty soon. So let's go ahead and hop into talking about this week's sneak peek. All right, so for this week's sneak peek, you should be seeing it up on the screen now. This is what appears to be a full interior cockpit shot of the new Kruger ship that we'll be getting in 4.3 from some data mines and also the loading screen that you can see now when loading into the PTU. Sounds like this ship is going to be called the Kruger L21 Wolf. The quote for this one, this sneak peek was "perfection in every piece." So it sounds like Kruger is very much trying to make this a very, not necessarily a luxurious ship, but just a very well made, well crafted, well thought out ship. You know, just a nice to fly, nice to experience type of ship. So from this, again, we can see we got two joysticks, so no throttle and joystick. That implies to me, of course, this is a fighter. You're going to want you'd want those sticks to have the additional mobility. We can see in the middle the little circle dial area where the last week's sneak peek was shown from. It looks like there's kind of a light up little clock there. You can see there's a bunch of little buttons and stuff all over the cabin here for all your various uses, you know, turning lights on, gear, all those sorts of things. And then it looks like we have two MFDs, two primary MFDs showing up at the top there. There are two more little circle areas to the left and right of them. I don't know if that'll be some other like gauge or little display thing, just like a little decorative piece. We'll have to see. But it does look very, very nice. And then up at the top, you can see these small rectangular displays where you'll have your little indicators of if you've been radar locked and if things are having issues and whatnot. So all I can say is it looks very, very nice. Like I said a few minutes ago, from the loading screen for 4.3, there's a little picture in the top right corner where you can see the ship. Kind of, it's a little bit blurry. I'll try and throw it up on the screen, but it looks like from the Star Citizen Live they had a couple of months ago, where they showed, I think they had a concept, different styles from letters A to G, if I remember correctly. It looks like they ended up going with mostly A, but may have incorporated a little bit of some of the other concepts into it. So it really does not look to be that much larger than a Merlin, but it obviously will be big enough to have your like a quantum drive and all those sorts of things that make it like a proper ship that you can move around in. So all I can say is it looks really, really nice, and I've seen a lot of positive feedback on it, and I think a lot of people are really looking forward to seeing what it fully looks like, how it handles, and all those sorts of things. So make sure to let me know down in the comments, what do you think about the ship so far? Do you think you might pick one up? You might try one out with some store credit? Just let me know what you think. So the last thing we have to go over today is something that was pretty just random, and it was a bit of a surprise when I saw it yesterday. It was like pretty late-ish afternoon of Friday. And suddenly on the Pipeline Discord in the leaks channel, because this is from the Evocati testing chat on Spectrum, that not everyone has access to, Wikipedia said that they are aiming to run a 4-hour tech preview playtest with Evocati on next Monday, starting at 11 a.m. Central Daylight Time. This test will focus on 2 tech updates, the main Vulkan and FPS AI behavior integration improvements, and this is just our first test on these, and there will be plenty more. So this is, as far as I'm aware, going to be the first actual use of the tech preview channel this year that they said they were going to try and be doing for new tech, new features and stuff that will be coming into the game as part of the playability and stability push that they've been doing this year, trying to not destabilize the game or introduce issues that they don't need to. So now the question is, what are these improvements, these Vulkan changes and FPS AI changes that we're going to see? Now, I have a few ideas on what this could be. So for Vulkan, I know that there was like an update well, I guess there's been some updates that we've got periodically from, I believe it's Ollie Brown. I think he's one of the head, or the head technical guy for the engine and all those sorts of good stuff. But what this could be is maybe we finally get Vulkan multi-threading or some further tech integrations that will lay the foundation to then port in things like ray trace global illumination to Star Citizen. We know that that's something that they've been working quite hard on to get ready for Squadron 42. And of course, that should slide over into the PU at some point. So that could be some of the stuff we see for Vulkan. I'm sure there'll be lots of optimizations that are going to be put in and bug fixing for current issues with Vulkan, because I know that there are quite a few problems with it still. So we'll have to see what happens, what we maybe hear from Evocati, because as far as I know, they can still like talk about what they do. They just can't show us or anything like that. So we'll have to see what news we get from that on Monday. And then we also have the FPS AI behavior changes. Now, for this, I didn't. All I can think of this is this might be some of the maybe behavior of FPS AI in Squadron that's probably a lot more thought out and well developed than it is currently in the PU that they want to bring over into the PU to make that sort of gameplay more challenging. So we'll have to see what ends up happening with that. But those are a few thoughts that I have on what this possibly could be. My biggest hope is that maybe they might be opening up the tech preview channel to start with some initial stuff like this, and then maybe we get either another separate tech preview, like a tech preview 2 channel for some engineering playtest, or maybe they just lump it all into the same thing. So we'll have to see, but we know that they talked about engineering being prepped for tech preview in the latest monthly report. It happened in July, and now we're second week of August. So we'll have to see what happens, but I'm very much interested in seeing what improvements there are and hopefully what further changes we get and additions of new features and stuff as they're ready and as the game is ready. So I'd love to hear what you think down in the comments on any of this, any of your thoughts on ships you might want to get in the next patch, or different fixes to some of your favorite ships. What do you think about the sneak peek from this week? And of course, what do you think about this news of the Tech Preview channel opening up on Monday for some first of many tests? I'd love to hear any of your thoughts below. If you enjoyed this video and a breakdown of the latest news and updates for Star Citizen, feel free to leave a like, as it really helps the channel. And definitely subscribe if you want to see further news updates and ship reviews, different guides and things like that for new ships, events, all sorts of that stuff coming in the very near future. But that's going to do it for this video, and have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you in the verse.